Hello, Advanced Navigation. For this week's discussion, we will be talking about a time that we were flying with a GPS and had a component malfunction. I'm going to tell a little personal story about my experience with getting my instrument rating. When I was doing my training, getting prepared for my check ride, one of the simulated malfunctions that we would go over is if you had a PFD failure. So my instructor would click on the brightness, turn it all the way down and say, oh no, your PFD failed, what do you do? And of course you have a little red button that basically flips everything from your PFD over onto your MFD, and you just have the awkwardness of parallax error and having to fly from maybe the left seat staring at all the primary flight instruments over on the MFD now. And thankfully with technology, it's that easy versus steam gauges. If you had instrument malfunctions, we don't have the option to just flip it over on the other half of the dash. Now that was simulated. The actual, I won't say it was a malfunction, but it was a misunderstanding on my part. So I had done all of my preparation, getting ready for the check ride, and I was at a Part 141 flight school, and for my instrument check ride, we had to plan an IFR cross country, file it, and prepare to fly the cross country. And essentially, right as you would hit cruise and level off and hit your cruise checklist, the examiner would say, okay, I want you to divert me back to the home airport, and I would like you to shoot the ILS for 3-2 right. And you would shoot a precision approach, a GPS, and VOR approach, and then the last one would be full stop to circling minimums. So they wanted to see each of the 3 different types of approaches. And what ended up happening to me is on the ground in the run-up area, I entered in the flight plan. I said, here's our departure airport, and then our en route phase is going to go from our departure VOR onto the Victor Airway to this fix where we would exit, and then from that fix we would be heading direct to the destination airport. What I did not catch, and I guess the examiner saw it on the ground, but I hadn't had this happen in any of my rec rides in getting prepared, is something in the Garmin 1000 system did not sequence properly. So when we took off and were on climb out, instead of the system recognizing that we had departed and we were now on this Victor Airway, it was like we never passed the VOR. So as soon as we took off, it was telling us to go back and pass the VOR to sequence. Now, because this had not happened to me, and my instructor said after this check ride did not go my way, that this was a very common thing the G1000 did, and most students had ran into it, I had been unlucky enough that it never did it to me until I was on my check ride. And so naturally, the stress of being on a check ride, I was kind of frantic, I was sweating a little bit, my heart was racing. I had prepared a lot for this check ride, and of course I picked the toughest examiner that we had, hoping to impress him, and he just kind of laughed because he couldn't help, obviously, and he was watching me troubleshoot. And I took the cursor, I went into the flight plan, and I scrolled down to the Victor Airway. It was Victor 497, and I tried to hit activate, and the G1000 it held on to what it was holding on to, this turning back and sequencing the VOR. And the only way to activate the next leg was actually to hover the cursor over the exit fix. In my mind, it made sense that I need to be on this Victor Airway, So I'm just going to take the cursor, go right on the airway, hit activate. It should take us. And every time I pressed enter, nothing would happen. The cursor just kept blinking. And I just kind of threw my hands up. Like, I don't understand. I don't know what's going on. It makes sense in my mind that this should work. And it just wasn't, because I wasn't familiar with this issue and all the ins and outs of the system. And so it wasn't a check ride failure. It ended up being called a review, and I had to go back up with my instructor that day, get re-signed off. My instructor was actually leaving that day. It was his last day on the job, and he said, hey, I know you're frustrated, but if we don't go back up right now and get you re-signed off, we'll shoot one approach and call it good. If we don't do it today, you're going to have to do a rec ride all over with a different instructor and show them everything, probably at least twice, and it's going to cost you more time. So frustrated and beat down, I jumped in the plane, we went and shot our approach, and I got re-signed off, and then I passed it the next time. But the G1000 is very intricate and has very many features, and if you don't know, it's like watching your parents use a smartphone and hit the wrong button, and they just have no idea how to fix it, and you just kind of get overwhelmed. And so it's very important to know your systems, know how to put everything in manually and change what you need to. And I'm running over time here, so my biblical principle is, so do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. With that, God offers us comfort when we need it the most. Let yourself be guided by him. He knows what's best for you. He knew on that day what was best for me was to grit my teeth and jump back in and learn from my mistake and move forward. See you guys next week.